I think, with the benefit of hindsight, I've probably been depressed before during my lifetime, but I didn't ever recognise it. What happened and why? During the recession we had to have, around about 88, 89, I was under some external pressures. And my mother died, and I think, in retrospect, those sorts of pressures caused me to become depressed. My wife had been telling me for some time I was depressed, and I responded by saying, well, just because life is utterly miserable and I can see nothing good coming out of anything, I'm not depressed about it. That's just my perfectly rational understanding of what's going on around me. In any event, I got the flu, went to see the local GP, who was a very lovely middle-aged lady. The fellow I usually saw wasn't available, and I sat down. She said, "How are you?" And I suddenly burst into tears. And I thought, oh, that's a bit odd. It was a terrible feeling because it was dreadfully unmanning and something I'd never experienced in my life before. And I then realised that perhaps my wife might be right. And then the GP said very kindly, do you think you should see a consultant? And I thought, oh, yes, please. And that's when I started to get treated. I stayed on an antidepressant for some time, I think a year or so. Then I decided to take myself off it. Bad thing to do. Became depressed again. By this time, I was seeing another psychiatrist, but just purely for convenience reasons. And I then started to take another drug. And then one day, it was like that. Nothing wrong with me. And I was so startled by how I was feeling. I remember discussing it with my wife and saying, this is ridiculous. I'm now a creature of some drug. I'm not whoever I was. And she said, no, you're your old self. And I was horrified. And then realised that I'd obviously been like that, like how I was for a long time. One of the symptoms that I experienced during my depression was anxiety. So I would find myself, and stop myself if I could, wringing my hands, for example. And I suffered from early morning wakening and difficulty getting to sleep at night. I don't think anyone knew, save for a judge who picked it. But I wasn't listening to him. And when he would say to me simple things like, just go out and get in the sunshine and enjoy the day, I thought he was crackers. A mate of mine, one of the few people who'd actually recognised that I was depressed, suggested that I should start walking. I then started to walk to work and back, and at first it was a dreadful ordeal to do it, but only after about a week or so it became progressively easier, and I've been doing it ever since. Not only has it improved my mood dramatically, it's also been very efficient and effective way of working. Did my work have anything to do with my depression? Undoubtedly, yes, because it's always been a job which requires performance, and therefore there's pressure, and there's also time and intellectual pressure. And most successful barristers are, like all successful people, are driven to a degree, and so it's important to get it right. If then you super add to that some other external pressures, then I think that's when that's certainly when the problem arose for me. I have to be on my guard against falling into the slough of depression. My wife says that I'll collapse like a prick balloon, which I think is an unfortunate expression, but anyhow, probably right. But now that I know that's what can happen to me and I'm conscious of it, then I'm pretty careful to do simple things like get enough sleep, like don't drink too much, or have a decent diet. But still absolutely vital for me is exercise. And apart from walking to and fro from work, I exercise twice a week with a trainer, and I exercise in Centennial Park 3 times a week if I can.
Going down and driving.
One of the extraordinary things I think about depression is you can't do a damn thing about it yourself without some sort of help. And I think this is important. It's no good. People can tell you to snap out of it until they're blue in the face. It's not going to work. If you're truly depressed and not just having a bad day, you really, I think, need some sort of external help.
And nice and tall, head back a little bit. Fantastic balance. Fantastic, Paul, well done. And then just coming off carefully.